Hi, I have your I Ching reading for this weekend. And guess who's back? Hexagram 43, Pop. If you'll remember, if you've been joining me this week, Pop, Hexagram 43 was our I Ching reading for the week. And let me read to you a little bit from that. It's pop the pimple. Decisive, total, quick. Squeeze out the pus. No trace of stagnation left behind. Tension has built to the point where action is inevitable. Decisive, incisive, swift. It's time for the sword. Lance the boil. Pop and adulting, hexagram 7, are the two places in the I Ching where force is required. Have you been living like an ingrown hair, afraid to put yourself out there? Just when you get close, do you turn inward again toward old habits? That time is over. The crisis is here. Is your retraction a trauma response? What is trauma? An impact that you could neither absorb nor metabolize, so an injury is left behind. It swells. The injury lasts long after the impact has passed, buried under the skin. The tissue at the point of impact is damaged. Pus comes with its white blood cells to cushion and heal. But sometimes that cushioning becomes painful swelling, and the process intended to heal just drives the injury deeper. Okay. I actually wrote a long post on Facebook and my blog about just this, actually, about after I was raped and how I was able to metabolize that trauma in my body. But that alchemy took a long time, and there was a long time of driving the injury deeper and living like an ingrown hair before the swelling became so painful that the energy of hexagram 43, that decisiveness, that sense of when we're re-injuring ourselves in trauma, when we are inviting in the same pattern of relationship that is associated with our trauma, whether it be childhood or at any point in our lives, the story that we carry is magnetic. If we're carrying that story of our worthlessness, we will bring in people who reiterate that worthlessness. If we are living in a story of our value, then we bring in people who share in that story of value and amplify that story of value. So the fact that 43 is coming up twice this week makes me want to ask you once we have, as we have squeezed the pimple, popped the pimple, right? Cleared the space, irrigated the wound, got every bit of stagnation out, stepped forward. We had a decisive action in adulting this week. We had treasure. We had that feeling of presence. So it was a matter of clearing that, stepping out, and then, oh, hang on a second. That hole that we had cleaned out, that pimple that we had popped has filled again. So can we check in and give it one more squeeze and make sure we just keep an eye on that and take good care of that wound. Take loving care of that wound. Have somebody else look at it. Does this look infected to you? You guys should put some Neosporin on this, or just like a Band-Aid? It's 43 for the weekend. Continue making sure the wounds are cleaned and healing well, because the presence and treasure will all come to fill that space when met with responsibility and decisive action. But again, not the ego's action, the action that emerges from that spaciousness. That takes patience, practice. So 43, we have a lot of transforming lines. So the hexagram that is surrounding 43 today is homing again. So two hexagrams, two very high energy hexagrams that are repeating this week. So we have that whole feminine force of nature surrounding this very young hexagram of pop, of that decisive action. Again, it's like the reminder that that pop, that effort is coming out of the field of yin, is coming out of that loam, is coming out of that compost, out of that earth. It's very similar to what we had with adulting and homing earlier in the week. This is pop and homing. So our transforming lines here, we have 5 changing lines. Lines 1 through 5 are all changing from 43 into 2. See, 43 only has that yin line at the top, and it's like the yang lines are pushing up and about to displace the yin line at the top, because there's no time for that. It's like a big ejaculation, just pushing out that yin line at the top. But in this case, in the reading for this weekend, it's surrounded by yin. Line 1, you're not quite ready to move forward yet. I know you feel ready. You're not. Wait, recirculate that energy, delay ejaculation. Line 2, when you're afraid, it's better to just be with the fear. Feel into it instead of resisting it. That which we wrestle with, we lend power to. Reach out and talk about it. But know that word of your vulnerability may spread to those who would take advantage of it. Don't pay them much mind. Be alert, but don't let this threat add to the burden of fear. Let it hasten the movement of fear through you. Let fear be amplified. Imagine you are already dead. What do you still have to be afraid of? It will almost be like before you were born. What was there to grieve in that absence? Line 3. People are going to sling some mud now. It's possible you've said too much, overstated your case, overshot the mark, and got people all riled up. Take the mudslings and assorted arrows with grace and walk tall, even if you're walking alone right now. It's not easy, but keep going. We have a choice whether to take on humiliation or to let it roll off our backs. The worst thing you could decide to do right now is let the hate turn your head and knock you off your square. And there's this little transition. There's a little contradiction between line 3 and line 4. And so when there's a lot of changing lines, a lot of energy and flux between the hexagrams, like there is for this weekend, it reminds us of that we are still in choice, that there are certain energies at play. Like this is an energetic snapshot of this moment, and the energetic snapshot of this moment is one of a lot of flux. So how we ground and how we meet this moment will make a lot of difference in the causes and conditions for the next moment. So here's line 4. You're not listening. It's one thing to not listen to the haters, as in line 3. It's quite another to ignore the nudges from the voice within because you're feeling the momentum of your goal. It's okay to pivot. It's often required. There are those who don't have your best interests at heart, and you can filter their comments, but there are also people who care about you and want to flourish with you. Listen to them. Take their advice. Don't try to go it alone. Don't be stubborn. You'll only make things harder for yourself. Humility. Maybe the most important virtue. Line 5, weed the garden. In lines 3 and 4, you had the chance to see who your allies and enemies are within and without. Which old patterns of defense have you resorted to as you've confronted obstacles? Huh? What are you defending? Have you been forcing things, resorting to the old bootstrapping model of if you just try harder, you can do it? It's not the case. Pull the weeds, give good room to grow. Stay in the middle and just focus on the next loving action that emerges. One weed at a time. Beauty and order will become clear as space is made for growth. Let your defenses go. That seems to be the key point of this reading. Let your defenses go. Allow the clarity to emerge. It won't emerge if you're muddying it with your defenses. And so that is all enveloped by hexagram 2, which is that big, vast, humming yin. Just read you a little bit of that because we've covered that actually already this week. Ooh, homing. The dark loam in a magnetic field absorbs light and gives life. The nourishing dark, our original home. Welcome. So squeeze out the stagnation. Allow yourself to be defenseless. Defenseless, aware, ready, and open. I mean, that sounds like a pretty fun weekend to me. I will see you again on Monday for our weekly reading. Have a beautiful spring weekend, I guess, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and a beautiful autumn weekend if you're